I'm Heather Hansen. Welcome to H2 Spark, where we talk about all things health related because we know health glows. Today we're going to be talking to Janae Dabbundo. She is a dietitian who focuses on pediatrics, and she has a wealth of knowledge with regards to all kinds of things, including breastfeeding, kids and allergies, and childhood obesity, which we all know is a big issue.
So I have always loved children, and I've always loved working with children. The reason that I got so into nutrition was that I really enjoy preventative health. So there's not really much of a better place to start than in pediatrics to prevent everything that could possibly go wrong or to help prolong lives.
When you say that you've always been into health and nutrition, I know that you teach yoga.
Yes.
And you've taught dancing for how long?
I've taught dance for 8 years and yoga for almost 2.
And so that also, the teaching of the dance especially, you're working with kids there.
Yes.
What is it that you think is the thing that most people are doing best when it comes to their kids' nutrition? And then what's the thing that we need to improve upon most?
I feel that the country as a whole has kind of gotten better about being more health conscious. So we are giving our kids fruits and vegetables younger now. They have access to healthier things. And as far as the internet and everything, kids are on the internet when they're 3 or 4 years old. Once they learn how to read, they have access to a lot of great information. What I think we can improve upon is everybody always kind of goes to kid foods.
Right.
So chicken fingers and macaroni and cheese. Everybody knows what the kid foods are.
Right.
Once in a while, obviously these foods are fine, but when people start to use them, giving a child fried chicken nuggets instead of a piece of chicken, that's kind of where I think the problem starts to happen.
You talked about, the fact that we have kids having more fruits and vegetables, and you and I talked about this the other day. When children are little, the urge to eat sugar, where does that come from?
So that's what carbohydrates and sugary foods do. They give us that quick energy. Unfortunately, there really are no famine times anymore.
Thank goodness.
Yes, but it's kind of an overabundance, but we still have that natural taste for it. So the more that you're exposed to it when you're younger, the more you're going to be craving it when you're older.
Yeah, I know that for myself. If I cut it out, I'm an abstainer, not a moderator. So if I cut things out completely, I'm fine for the most part. But if I try to moderate, it's harder. And I think that that's actually a biological thing, right?
It could be. There's a lot of different kind of schools of thought on that, but I tend to agree that some people can consume it in moderation, other people are abstainers, and I don't think that either one is wrong as long as you're doing it in a healthy way.
Yeah, I think it's a personality thing probably.
Yes.
But for kids, if you introduce sugar sooner, so because I know some parents who say no cake for my kids, no sugar for my kids, only fruits, and then other parents allow their kids to have cake at parties and so forth. Is there a benefit to one way over the other, or is it sort of just a matter of whatever you want?
I think it's tough, and I don't really know if there's an exact age of when that happens. I mean, I've seen parents, give 6 and 7 month old babies like licks of ice cream, and that's going to be too young. But I think once a kid develops those healthy eating habits, then I think that giving them cake at a birthday party or just teaching them that that's when having cake or having sweets and everything is appropriate in time as a celebration and as a treat, not as an everyday thing.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how young it starts. And a lot of our H2 Spark community had questions not only about pediatric dietitian stuff, but also about when you're breastfeeding.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about that and pregnancy in general.
Okay.
And when a woman is pregnant, is there a certain way that she should be eating as it gets towards the end of her pregnancy and she's starting to, anticipate having the baby?
No. You should eat pretty normally throughout your pregnancy. The first trimester, you really only need between a 3 to 5 pound weight gain, if that. There are women who gain no weight during their first trimester and they have perfectly healthy pregnancies.
What about activity during the end of pregnancy? Is that something that people should be trying to keep up with? Or
it's recommended that if you are already an active person, you can continue that activity throughout your pregnancy. We just don't want anybody to get pregnant and all of a sudden say, oh, I want to be a marathon runner now.
That's probably not
Yeah,
ideal.
right.
Yeah, so that's one of the questions that a lot of people had. Another question that a lot of people had was breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that this is a topic that oftentimes gets people pretty opinionated. I know
Yes.
that you've got some strong feelings
Yes,
about
I do.
it. So tell us what your thoughts are on that whole issue.
My thoughts on breastfeeding are, if you can do it, if you're medically cleared to do it, obviously there are certain medical situations that you can't.
Right.
And that's fine. But if it's possible for you to do it, do it. There's not, I mean, I don't know of one physician, nurse, dietitian that doesn't agree.
Yeah. What's the benefit? Why?
There are countless benefits, but the coolest benefit for me, and this is really what did it in for me, was when your baby nurses on you, their saliva goes inside of you, and your body can detect what your baby needs. There is some kind of hormonal exchange that goes between the baby's saliva and the mother's milk ducts that kind of figures out, do they need more fat, do they need more, so it just kind of.
And then does the mother's body adjust for that?
Yes.
Wow, that is really amazing.
Yes.
I mean, clearly this is what human beings are
Right.
meant to do if they can.
Right, if they can. A lot of the reason why I've found that women don't is whenever somebody has a baby, the first instinct is, oh, let me hold the baby. Let me come over and hold the baby.
Right.
And everybody wants to bond with the baby. Moms want dads to bond with the baby, and grandparents, aunts, uncles. And I think we kind of shifted away from, it's not anybody's job but a mother's job to bond with her baby in that way.
Right, by feeding it.
By feeding it, right.
There's other ways to bond, right?
Exactly, you can change their diaper, you can hold them. But during feeding time, that's mom's job.
Yeah.
And that's why she carried it for 9 months.
Now, is there a certain way that a mom should be eating during that time?
There's just a general healthy diet. You do need additional calories because breastfeeding burns a ton of calories. I would say you need, again, another 300 to 500. It's, I believe breastfeeding can burn up to 500 calories a day. So if you ever heard of that whole 500 calories equals a pound a week?
Right. Sure.
Ideally, in the first 6 months, you should lose 26 pounds with just breastfeeding. So you can lay on your couch and breastfeed and eat normally and still lose 26 pounds.
So, but what kind of calories? Is there or is it that you're supposed to eat whatever you're drawn to eat because that's sort of the chemistry of what the baby needs?
A general healthy diet, so fruits and vegetables, whole grains, dairy products, meat, all of your food groups, obviously you can still snack. The only thing you have to pay attention, if you eat something and then you feed your baby and they kind of get a little bit upset, you want to take a second and think about what you might have eaten that caused them to get upset.
Because whatever you're eating, they're eating.
Exactly.
We got some really good questions from the H2 Spark community. Ron Goodwin, who is a friend of mine on Twitter, he has a new grandson at home, and he's wondering if there's certain foods that they can feed his grandson that will avoid him having allergies later on in life. Is that possible?
Unfortunately, no. Allergies are not quite genetic, but if you have them, you have them, and if your body produces those antibodies, then they're going to produce them. Just following your doctor's recommendations of, not giving milk products until babies are 1, avoiding kind of like peanuts until they're 2. So just the big allergens, avoid them until the necessary time. There is some research coming out that says that you might want to give them a little bit earlier so that they can.
Right, try and build up the
try to build up the
yeah.
immunity, but breastfeeding is actually the only thing that has been proven to reduce the chance of the allergies.
Another score for breastfeeding.
I know.
Right? Yeah. So the more you breastfeed, the more likely you will avoid the chance of allergies?
Yes, because your baby will be exposed to it before. However, if you are born with a milk allergy and you notice you're drinking milk, your baby gets, their stomach gets upset and you just notice the normal signs of allergic reactions, they just have the allergy and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to know that you're still giving them everything that they need through your breast milk.
Another question that Mary Kay had was, she's got 2 young boys at home, and she wants to know how many fruits and vegetables, specifically vegetables, they have to eat to be healthy. I think that, that's the same for a lot of parents. Getting kids to eat the vegetables is such a challenge that it's like, tell me the number and I will shove it down their throats and then be done with it. What's the number?
It's recommended 5 servings a day, 3 vegetables, 2 fruits. If it's the opposite and it's 3 fruits and 2 vegetables, that's okay.
Do you have any secrets for getting, stick them in a brownie?
Honest?
Are you okay with brownies?
You can make a pretty good brownie. You can make it with black beans, you can make it with applesauce instead of sugar. So there are plenty of other healthier brownies that you can make. You can sneak them in, pasta dishes or like darker colored gravies. You can put vegetables in like a meatloaf or a chicken loaf. Okay. So there are ways to hide them, and also just exposing them to, number one, different kinds of vegetables. So I always like to say that nobody dislikes every single fruit and every single vegetable. So that does not fly with me. Right. Everybody likes something. Right. With all of the fruits and vegetables that are available, especially with how we can ship foods now, there's got to be something that everybody likes.
Speaking of shipping food, do you have an opinion as to whether it's better to eat local? Is there any huge reason to do that? Or should you just, as you said, go for it? If your kid likes something, find it no matter where you have to find it.
I would say if your kid likes something, find it. Local farming is just good as far as you get to know your farmer. Mm-hmm. So if you go to a farmer's market, you can talk to them about how they grow their foods and how they preserve their foods from bugs and from flies and everything.
To make sure that there's no like pesticides, or if
exactly.
there are, yeah.
And it's so tough to become a USDA certified organic farm, right, that there are farmers who practice almost everything they need to do, but they just don't have either the money or it's so much of a hassle that if they can just sell their fruits and vegetables at a farmer's market and people buy them, it's not worth it. Well,
that's an interesting question, because I didn't even realize that the USDA had certified organic farmers. Is that the case? So if I go to the farmer's market, there's one in Philadelphia every weekend, and I ask them, are you a USDA certified organic farmer? That we can get into the conversation about no, and this is why, or yes, I am.
Or you can just ask about what their farming practices are.
What are, in your opinion, and I know that this is impossible to really pick out, the top 5 reasons for childhood obesity being such an epidemic right now?
I would say the first one would be just the initiation of certain foods at young ages. Whatever you're exposed to when you're a baby, you are going to keep in adulthood. So, if somebody has a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old child and they have really poor eating habits, it's better than having a 14 or 15 or 16-year-old with poor eating habits, because 5 years versus 15 or 16 years is a lot of time to make up for, and a lot of time to change. Right. So I would say that's definitely number one, how you feed your baby, what you feed your baby, the settings that you feed your baby.
Why are the settings important?
If you constantly put your baby in front of a TV, they're going to get used to eating in front of the TV.
Yeah, good point.
They'll just kind of get used to more mindless eating practices. Right.
So I guess your recommendation would be to, from the time that your baby's a baby, to eat your meals at the table. I have read a lot about, it's not just what you eat, it's how you eat and where you eat and why, probably the emotions behind it. But it's I guess that starts right from the minute that your child starts eating.
It does.
Great.
Number 2, I would say this is more for school-age children, but I think school lunches are definitely a pretty big problem for us. And just from what I've seen throughout, my dietetic internship, it's such a natural question for pediatric weight loss dietitians to ask children, do you buy second breakfast and second lunch? Oh. And it just rolled off of their tongue as naturally as, how are you today? And I was so surprised. Parents want to give their children a healthy breakfast and a healthy lunch. There are commercials, there's research, there's everything saying that having a healthy breakfast and a healthy lunch are going to help your child improve in school. So when children are home, their parents will give them oatmeal or eggs or yogurt or anything for breakfast. And then children can go to school. School breakfasts are worse than school lunches, and they can get, Pop-Tarts, any kind of breakfast pastry, muffins, so they can go to school and get that. Yeah. So that's double the calories. Same thing with lunch. Parents will pack their children a healthy lunch, whether it's a sandwich or some hummus and crackers or anything, and then they'll eat that and then also get, pizza on Fridays.
Right. Yeah, one of the people that I interviewed, a trainer, Nate McIntyre is his name, he said that one of the things he tells his clients, adults, is to cook your meals. And I think that, if you think about those kids' foods, they're nothing anybody could ever cook. You know, like those little Lunchables.
Right.
And, none of those things are cookable. So I guess that it's the same advice whether you're an adult or you're a child. To try to cook real foods.
Eating real foods is never going to hurt you. So you can even make your own Lunchables. If kids really like them and you want the pizza one, you can get crackers, put your own spaghetti sauce on it and add a little bit of cheese. So it's not that a lot of the foods that we eat are terrible. I mean, if you look at pizza, it's just bread, tomato sauce, and cheese.
Right.
Three things that separately really aren't that bad for you. But if you don't make it yourself, or if you go elsewhere to get it, then you don't know what they're putting in it, what kind of dough they're using, what kind of tomato sauce they're using, what kind of cheese they're using, how much of all these things they're using. So when you cook yourself, you just have a lot more control of what's going in not only your body, but your children's bodies.
Janae, thank you so much for being with me today. And I know that we're going to have you back and talk about these issues more, because this is the type of thing that everybody wants to know, how to make sure their kids are eating right. And it's really hard. So we appreciate it, and I appreciate the work you do.